Hello, welcome. We are in Chapter 1, FST, where we're talking about some different statistics. In this video, we're going to go through Lesson 1.3, which is all about our measures of center. Now, you might not have heard of the phrase measures of center before. Measures of center are referring to the mean and the median of a data set. And really what these help us look at is they help us look at the center of the data. So we'll go ahead and talk through each of these terms and what they mean and how we calculate them for a data set. Mean, you may have heard of. Another word for mean is the average of the data set. Now, something new when it comes to mean is a symbol that we actually use to represent the mean. So we're going to say this is represented by this symbol, which is an X with a line above it. That X with a line above it, whenever we see that, we would read that as X bar. And we should know that that's indicating to find the mean. So for example, when we see down here this X bar, we should know that that's referring to the mean of the data set. Now, the way that we calculate the mean or the average is we add all the values together and then divide by the number of values. So we'll add up all the numbers and then divide by how many numbers we have. So we'll go ahead and find the mean for each of these data sets down here before we jump into our other measures of center. So looking at this first data set, the first thing I would want to do would be add my values together. Now feel free to do this in your head or use your calculator to help you. So I'm going to go ahead and add, and that's going to give me 15. And we have 5 values, so I'm going to do 15 divided by 5 because we had 5 numbers, and that's going to be 3. So my mean will be 3. In example B, if we add our values together, that's going to be 8. And we have 4 values, so I'll be dividing by 4, and 8 divided by 4 is 2. Now, notice that sometimes your mean would be the same as a number in your data set, but sometimes it's not. So the mean doesn't have to be the same as the numbers in our data set. And we'll do our last one. Now, one of the things I want you to notice is that I'm adding and then dividing. I'm not doing that all in the same step. Your calculator will do the order of operations if you do it all in the same step. So we got 24 as our sum. We are dividing by 5. We do get a decimal here for our mean, and that's okay. We're allowed to get decimals. That might happen, especially when we're doing an even number divided by an odd number. All right, so that's our first measure of center. That's the mean, adding all the values and dividing. Second one we're going to talk about is the median. The median is the middle value of a data set. So median, think in the middle. Now, this might be a little bit tricky because if we have an even number of values, we're not just going to have one number in the middle. If, for example, here, if we have 4 values, we won't just have one number in the middle. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to find the average of the middle 2 values. Now, one of the ways that we can find the median that can be helpful is to kind of cross off your high and low values until we get to that middle value. It might be easy to look at this small data set and see that 4 would be the number in the middle. But once we get to larger data sets, we'll take a look at an example later on, it might be kind of hard to figure out what's actually in the middle. So we can cross off low and high until we see that value in the middle, which would be 4. Now in B, what we see if we cross off low, high, we actually see we get two values in the middle. So that was when we have to find the average. So we'd have to actually add 1 plus 2 and divide by 2 since we have two values. That would give me 3, and 3 divided by 2 is going to be 1.5. So we're actually kind of looking for the value in between 1 and 2, which would be 1.5. And then C, if we cross off low, high, we'll get to 6 in the middle. One of the things also to keep in mind with median is your numbers do have to be in numerical order. If they're not, then you would need to put them in numerical order before finding the median. All right, and the last thing we're going to talk about is the mode. Technically, the mode doesn't measure the center of the data. The mode is just the most frequent value, or the number that occurs most often. Now, one of the things with the mode is we can have none or more than one. It is possible to not have a mode. If there isn't a value that occurs more frequently than the rest, it's possible to not have a mode. Or if we have multiple values that occur more frequently, and they occur the same number of times, we could have more than one mode. So if I look at data set A, we see that the number 5 occurs more than the other numbers, so 5 would be our mode. In data set B, I see that 1 occurs twice, the other numbers only occur once, so 1 would be our mode. And in C, I see that we have 2 2s, but we also have 2 6s, and we only have 1 8. That means the 2s and the 6s both occur most frequently, so we'd actually have 2 modes. Both 2 and 6 would count as modes. Now, if 8 also occurred a second time, then we wouldn't actually have a mode at all because all of the values would occur the same number of times. All right, we're going to go ahead and take a look at just one more example of finding these values. And we'll take a look at this table here. So this data shows the heights of the players on a varsity basketball team. So we have the number of players and their heights. So this means that one player has a height of 67. 3 players have a height of 69, which actually means in our data set, we would have 3 69s. So we should have 3 69s because 3 people have that. Similarly, for 70, we actually have 4 people that have a height of 70. So I would have 4 70s in my data set. We would have 2 71s and 2 72s. So make sure you read carefully. We shouldn't just be adding these values, we should be adding all the values together. If we think about how many members does the team have, a couple ways to get to this. One is we could count all of their heights, or we could simply add the numbers of players together. If we add 1 plus 3 is 4, plus 4 is 8, plus 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12, 13, 14. So if we add all those together, we would get 14. So that means the team has 14 total people. To find the mean, I'm going to add all of my values together. Make sure that you add all of them, not just the original values. So I'll add 67 plus 3 69s plus 4 70s plus 2 71s plus 2 72s, 74 and 79. And I'll get 993. And we know we had 14 members, so I would be dividing that by 14. So if we do 993 divided by 14, that's going to give me about 70.9 as my mean. The median is the middle value, so to find the middle value, I'm going to cross off low, high until we get to the middle. So if I cross off low, high, low, high, low, high, low, high, low, high, low, high. We do end up with 2 values in the middle, but they're both the same. And because they're both the same, I don't need to find the average between them. That just means the median would be 70. And then the mode is the most frequent or most often. We can see that 70 had the most number of players, so our mode would also be 70.